know we were expecting a couple of elected officials to join us, so I'm presuming they're here. I see them both. So first, from the Port of Pasco, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Jim Clinworth. Please help me recognize him. And from the Franklin PUD, we have PUD Commissioner Stu Nelson. I'm in a good mood today. That's why I didn't say anything snarky this time. And I do want to take a moment to introduce some of our past presidents that are here from the Pasco Chamber and our current board members as well too. I know from, let's see, our past presidents, Kim Fall is supposed to be here, but Jason Hogue sitting right by himself right over there. I'll join you here in a little bit. Daryl Ebert with the Dust Devils, Tara Wiswall, who's wearing her posse pin, thank you. Julie Killian as well too, there she is right there, and John Schultz is supposed to be here. I haven't seen him yet too. So, and we have plenty of board members that have joined us too. As a little reminder, if you haven't received your ballot yet, we're in the middle of our board election, so you should be receiving that in the mail really soon. But I know Norm Rummel with the Franklin PUD is here, Tim Brigman with STCU, Walter Timmons with Banner Bake, way back there, getting his food. James Sexton with JMS Construction, Janet Mick as well with Minuteman Press. And I want to say that somebody snuck in on me. Edison Valerio is here as well. Am I missing anybody? Wave if I missed you. All right, well, this is, as we head into next month's annual luncheon, it really is important to have the commitment from our board of directors and our past presidents. So let's give them a round of applause for thanking them for their service. So want to acknowledge all the effort that Kelly and Megan put in for the school supply drive. You guys responded, brought in a bunch of supplies, and working with the Pasco School District and as well as the Boys and Girls Club that provide us all this artwork as well too. So they put a lot of effort into putting this all together, and there's still time. So if you forgot your school supplies, you have until the 30th. We do have one of the lovely bins at our office. There's one here at the Red Lion Grocery Outlet. And is there a fourth one? Is it Blue Compass RV? Thanks, Caleb. Thunder Alley? It's on our website as well too. So, but please consider donating. You have until the end of this month to do so, and after the lunch too, go ahead and check out some of the artwork. Is really, some of it is extremely impressive. So. Also want to give an update on our Crawfest. I know many of you attended it. We had a really good time, a great turnout. Turnout could have been a little bit better other than the fact that it's 104 degrees and we scheduled on the same weekend as Pendleton Whiskey Festival, but we still had a really good turnout, great entertainment, lots of crawfish, and I'm so used to saying crawdads, but Buddy Bentz, if you know Buddy, he says you don't call them crawfish or crawdads, they're crawfish. Even though there was a movie that just came out a couple years ago where the crawdads sing, and that I think was supposed to be based in South Carolina. I haven't watched it yet, so whatever. I'm going to call them crawdads. We used to call it the crawdad boil as well too, but you have to negotiate, and so Buddy won that one. But anyway, great turnout, had a good time, went through a lot of food, a lot of drinks, and great entertainment, and looking for sponsors for next year. Many of you will be receiving a sponsorship opportunity packet here in the mail probably next week. Take a look at that. This is a perfect time for looking at your budgets for 24. Most companies are starting to work on their budgets as well. That's what we're doing here at the Pasco Chamber. So think about how being a part of some of our events will help provide more visibility for your company and get some more engagement into our Pasco Chamber community. We have Riverfest coming up. That's really right around the corner, October 7th, and things are looking really good there. Great partnerships with so many organizations that want to create a community event that really highlights the importance of our hydropower system and our river system and what it all provides. It's just not the electricity, but it's recreation, economic development, as well as transportation. And we'll have 75 different exhibits telling their story of why the river system is so important to them. And it's geared towards families and kids, lots of hands-on activities. We have live music all day long as well too. I think one of the highlights too is the Colville tribes have a performance. They do it twice, and that generally draws everybody to the stage to see that. And then everybody goes to the river when the tugboat is out there from Tidewater doing its demonstration too. So it's funny seeing the mass of people go back and forth. But lots of activities to do, lots of food vendors and retail vendors in addition to all the exhibits too. So mark your calendar. Bring your family down, kids, grandkids, nephews, nieces. You'll have a really good time, and it's free. And then finally, we are transitioning to our new year. So the Pasco Chamber operates its fiscal year starting September 1st, and we always have our annual meeting the first part of September. A few of you probably attended the Sunshine Balls. We don't do the Sunshine Balls anymore, but we do an annual luncheon in lieu of that. And I'm excited to announce that we're going to have a very dynamic speaker who's going to be coming to speak with us. His name is Sean Pete. He's actually a pit coach for a NASCAR racing team, the Trackhouse racing team. I know there's a couple NASCAR fans here. I know Katie's going to buy her ticket today. Really interesting. I'll just do a quick brief bio on him, that he's from Canada. Played collegiate hockey at Dartmouth, played professional hockey as well, never made it to the NHL. I think he still owns the record for most penalty minutes, and I don't know if it's IAHL, but the nicest guy in the world. So he was an enforcer. He's a big guy. He's like 6'4", 225, 230, but nicest guy in the world. Well, he and his business partner, Mike Metcalf, who was a running back for Appalachian State, I think he was on the team that beat Michigan. They started called Deck Leadership. It's leadership training. They do a lot of training throughout the country, big companies that you've heard of, large corporate sort of training. Most recently, I know that they're doing Kubota and I think McDonald's. And so turns out he's going to be in this neck of the woods Northwest, and he said that he wanted to come over and do a keynote presentation and really kind of branch into maybe getting some more clients in this area as well too. So he's going to have a really neat and fascinating story to tell and talk about, obviously, how his leadership training will actually, what he does, believe it or not, in NASCAR, will translate to business and how he works with it. And they're very successful. Usually they have one of the best pit crews in the racing league. And I know they've won many awards as well as community service awards. So want to make a point, if you have a company, it's a good one to bring the whole team as well too. So we do have tables for sale. You'll see that online. We're going, I think it's online now. So I know we're a little glitchy with our website this morning, but it will still go through. So make a point to attend that luncheon. With that, so Rob DiPiazza, who usually takes over the program from here, is on vacation. So you got me for the rest of the show. But we're about ready to head into the show. I'll go ahead and take that. Thank you. But first, I want to thank Molina Healthcare for sponsoring today's luncheon. I don't know did Norma make it today? Okay, I didn't think so. I think she had a conflict, but we do appreciate the support, and if you're interested in sponsoring any of our luncheons, feel free to give us a holler at the office. But now I want to go to our keynote presentation. So our panel will include Tara Wiswall, who is a financial advisor for Edward Jones, and Bonnie Sanchi, certified public accountant for Northwest CPA Group. The discussion will be moderated today by Abby Cameron, Executive Director of Three Rivers Community Foundation. So thank you very much. Thank you, Tara, for wearing your pin. That's right. Let's give them a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. We are happy to be here today and thankful for the opportunity to come talk to you about a big word with a lot of syllables in it, philanthropy. I'm really lucky today to have Tara and Bonnie and their professional experience to really guide us and ground us, and just some thoughts about if you personally or professionally or your business is interested in philanthropy and charitable giving, especially to support Benton and Franklin counties here. They're going to give us some great advice to do that, and we're just going to kind of go through and answer some questions. Before I get started, I do just want to, you may have noticed we stacked the deck here. I do have quite a few 3RCF board members here in the room. I want to thank you for coming. So if you have any questions, you can certainly tap that 3RCF person who may be at your table. Tara and Bonnie, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Okay, we have our slide here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to ask some questions. Tara and Bonnie are going to kind of fill in the dots, and we'll just see where it takes us. So why give? What are the thoughts around charitable giving, philanthropy?
All right. Well, what I can say is, by knowing a lot of you in this audience, that you're already giving, right? You're already donating to these nonprofits, maybe your church, things you feel passionate about and care about. Today's discussion is just to talk about more in a tax efficient, more prudent manner, to maybe up your giving game so you get a little bit more benefit from it.
Yes, like Tara said, there's a lot of tax benefits as well as estate planning benefits. Both of us see that pretty regularly. Clients come to us and say, hey, I really care about this foundation or this entity. My family member received care here. How can I give back? And we help talk with people and make sure that that gift is going as far as it possibly can.
So talk us through the different ways to make a gift. What are different tools or resources that someone could use to give?
Sounds good. Certainly, probably the most recognized way is just giving cash. More tax efficient could be appreciated stock. So if you own a bunch of shares of Microsoft and it's now got a gain of $10,000 and you want to give money to some entity, you might say, okay, I'm going to gift this appreciated stock, so you don't pay the capital gains on that $10,000 that it's grown over the years, and instead you get a tax benefit for that stock. So that would be something that we could suggest. You could say, I have this IRA, and instead of giving it to my son or daughter, instead I would like to make the IRA beneficiary this charitable organization. Instead, I will give my son or daughter my home or some other asset. That would be a really common one.
And what are the benefits of that, Bonnie?
The benefits are that doesn't end up in your taxable estate. So in Washington, we have a 2.193, or let's for ease, $2.2 million estate tax. So if you pass away and you own, really it's everything, your cars, your jewelry, your home, your retirement accounts, everything, if it's in excess of $2.2 million when you pass away, you now have a taxable estate in the state of Washington. So anything above that $2.2 million is subject to anywhere between 10 and 20% of tax. So that might be something that we suggest to someone and say, hey, you got this $500,000 IRA, maybe you have a charitable inclination, and therefore you would make that beneficiary a charitable organization instead.
The other benefit of that is with your traditional IRA or your 401k, your beneficiaries or your descendants also inherit that tax. Instead of giving them the tax, give it, if you have charitable intent, give it to the nonprofit or the church, and then, like Bonnie said, gift them something else or a different proportion of something that's not taxable upon death. The other thing to note is if you have friends or family that live in the state of Oregon, that estate tax is only $1 million. So estate tax planning and gifting is even more prudent if you or your family members or you have assets in the state of Oregon. So that's another way. I look around, there's maybe a few people that have RMDs around here, required minimum distributions from your IRAs or 401ks. It's another great thing. Maybe you're already giving to your church or Three Rivers Community Foundation or any of the other amazing nonprofits in our community. Instead of just cutting a check to them directly, have your financial institution send it to out of your IRA. It's a twofer, really. It satisfies your required minimum distribution, so it counts, and it is not taxable income to you. And the charity gets 100% of those proceeds, as opposed to if you take it as cash and you have to pay tax on it at 20, 25%. It's a really efficient way to get money to nonprofits in our area and satisfy your required minimum distributions as well.
Yeah, the flip side of that is you don't want to take that RMD and then turn around and write a check to a charitable organization and you don't get the tax benefit for it because you didn't get above the standard deduction. So that's a really, really effective way to give money, is to use your, we call them qualified charitable distribution, or QCDs.
Absolutely. If we use any lingo or acronyms here, just raise your hand and remind us that we need to get out of the books.
We'll try.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the max on qualified charitable distributions? And what if you want to use that max to give to a lot of organizations?
Great question. So the max now after the Secure Act, or is it before the Secure Act?
Before.
It's consistent, 100,000. So you can gift up to 100,000 of qualified charitable distributions out of your IRA or 401k. What I will say, as Edward Jones, if you have 25, 30 charities you want to give to, we are not set up to do that. It is not efficient for us to cut checks to all these charities, but what is efficient is to cut one check to Three Rivers Community Foundation, and you give them the names of all the places you want it to go, and Abby and Janet will be happy to help you with that. So know that there are limitations with whatever financial institution that you use about how many QCDs you can send out, because to Bonnie's point, it needs to go directly to them. You cannot touch it. But Three Rivers Community Foundation can absolutely help with that 100,000. The other good news is with the Secure Act, it will now be indexed to inflation after next year.
I think so, yeah.
So that 100,000 is going to start going up with inflation every year as well. So,
And Bonnie, if someone does direct a qualified charitable distribution from their RMD to one entity, and with like 3RCF, and it is then distributed amongst multiple charities at the donor's direction, what paperwork does someone then need for their tax accounting?
Good question. If it's coming straight from your investment advisor or whoever you invest with to the charities, generally we just need the piece of paper that says the QCD was this amount and here's where it went. In our tax software, we click a button and put the amount in. It's pretty straightforward. But if you were to ever get audited by the IRS, you would want the piece of paper that shows that that is what occurred. I have seen it come up with the IRS before, and once you send the letter in that came from the financial institution, the IRS went away. It's pretty quick and easy.
and note that the financial institution is not legally required to give you one. It is not an IRS required form. A good advisor should do that for you, but just know that it's not an automated system, so you may have to ask for it.
And if you pass through that giving through an entity like Three Rivers Community Foundation, you only need that one verification that you have completed your QCD and the document that you get from us.
Yep. Some other ways to give, I guess, sorry, I was going to talk about one more. The charitable, so this is a little bit more of a hefty tax planning tool, but it's called a charitable remainder trust, or a CRUT. And then there's a charitable annuity trust, or a CRAT. So talk to your financial advisors or your accountants. If you, once you pass away, want to continue giving to charity, these would be really good ways to do that. So you could make Three Rivers Community Foundation the beneficiary of that trust. Generally what happens is you have an individual beneficiary and then you have a charitable beneficiary. So two different people would receive money from these trusts, and it continues past your passing. So those are great options.
We touched on this a little bit, but what do you need to know about the IRS when you're doing charitable giving planning?
They are a lovely organization, but just kidding. So the biggest thing that I see on a day-to-day basis is your standard deduction. So many people, they change the number every year. It's $25,900 right now if you're married filing joint. So you do not get any additional benefit for tax purposes if you are not giving. There's a bunch of different things that make up your standard deduction. So medical, taxes, interest, mortgage interest specifically, and then charitable giving. If all of those combined, and there's some other rules in there, don't exceed $25,900, you do not get any tax benefit. So if you donated $10,000 and you paid mortgage interest of $10,000, you only have $20,000. You get no benefit for that because it's not in excess of the $25,900. So in our case, we would meet with clients and we would say, hey, you have this charitable inclination, you want to donate to your church, you want to donate to Three Rivers Community Foundation. Can we bunch them? Can you do a charitable gift, a really large one in January instead of December, and then January, and you split them in 2 separate years? Why don't we put them in 1 year? That would be an option. The other thing is, it's not a charitable gift unless it's a 501c3 or a church. So 501c3 is a designation from the IRS that says, hey, this is a nonprofit. They file what we call a Form 990, which, by the way, you can look up anyone's Form 990 on the internet and see if they're using the money the way that you would like them to use the money. But the IRS has to give them that designation. Otherwise, it's not a charitable gift. So a lot of times we see, like, political organizations. People will send in their political organization donations. It's not a charitable gift that we can take under the IRS rules because it's not a 501c3. So when you gift money, you might want to say, are you a 501c3 and can I get a receipt for the donation? You need to have those two things to pass an audit. Donations are irrevocable, so once you've given them, you've received the tax benefit, you no longer have control over that gift. That might be why you want to rope in Three Rivers Community Foundation, because they can review the charitable organizations and make sure that they're passing muster. I think that's a really great benefit.
I was going to say, one of the things, and we noticed that here in our community recently, is one-time large gifts to a nonprofit may not be used as efficient as you would hope, right? There can be some impropriety and incentivize people to do the wrong thing when they get a large check handed to them. So ways to mitigate that is to go through a third party like Three Rivers Community Foundation and have it sent out in regular intervals over periods of time so that that nonprofit is sustainable and doing the right things with those money that you have, worked hard for and want to make sure this entity continues on indefinitely. So, I don't personally recommend large chunks just going to a nonprofit in 1 year. Spread it out. It keeps everybody kind of on the same page. And like Bonnie said, you can always go to, is it charitable? Check the 990s.
GuideStar. Or Charity
yeah.
Navigator, yeah.
You can look up any of the nonprofits. They have to file a 990, and GuideStar is a great place to check that out. One thing I was going to notice or mention is that qualified charitable distributions can still start at 70.5, even though required minimum distributions have moved to 73, and eventually in 2033 you'll be 75. But you can still start qualified charitable distributions from your traditional IRA or your 401k once you've reached the age of 70.5.
If you tracked all of that, you're hired.
That is why you use your
go to a professional.
professionals. Yeah, have your CPA, have your attorney, have your financial advisor know that you have philanthropic interest, and then we can help you with all of this stuff. We do it every day.
Yeah. Another thing, just kind of tax-wise, if you have a large year, you're going to sell your business, you have a big contract, some large item happen, and you're interested in charitable giving, make sure you are talking proactively with your team. There's not a lot that we can do when it's March 15th or April 15th, and you say, hey, I had a really great year. So what can we do about it? I'm like, well, not much. There's less we can do.
Takes time for checks to clear.
Yeah, so I would say that if you're working with an accountant or a financial advisor, make sure you're talking to them no later than October, November. December gets busy, honestly, and if you call me December 15th, it's going to be really hard to make some changes in 15 days and write the checks.
I like to tell my clients before the holidays, and I include Halloween. So before Halloween, start planning.
When you see Halloween decorations at Costco,
That's now.
Exactly.
So this concept of estate planning, what do people need to have in mind, think about? What does that mean for planning?
we've kind of touched on a couple of these topics already. Planning in advance is huge. Let your advisor, and when we say advisors, we mean your CPA, your financial advisor, your estate planning attorney, know that you have philanthropic intent. We can help you weave that on how you send that donation to the charity upon your passing, creating a legacy, maybe in an endowment, those kind of things. We know where to pull that from to be the most tax efficient, so we can help you with that. But if it's after you've passed, and the docs are already done and you've already been promoted, hopefully, then there's not a lot we can do once all of that's already set. So if you let people know in advance and early, we can help you make sure that beneficiaries are listed correctly and that kind of stuff. The other thing is, maybe every once in a while you'll find somebody who doesn't have children or descendants, or they're not really sure who to leave stuff to, right? So those are also another, to think outside the box is, well, what is something you really care about, or what kind of legacy would you like to leave if you want to, or remain anonymous? Those are things that you can set up with your CPA, your financial advisor, your attorney. It generally takes all three of us to get it right. It needs to be in writing. That's with the attorney. You need to make sure it makes tax sense. That's the CPA. But the assets are generally with your financial advisor, and that's where the beneficiaries and all that kind of legalese happens, where the money is actually held. So it really takes that team to make sure everything goes where you want it to go. But recently I had a client who, she doesn't have any children. Unfortunately, her children predeceased her, but she really felt strongly about a nonprofit that had helped her when she was going through cancer. And so we worked with her team to set up an endowment once she passes, where her assets would go to that and continue on long past, her lifetime, and probably mine as well, which is the intent.
Estate documents versus probate.
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I do know probate is very expensive.
We didn't bring an attorney to this party.
I work with them frequently, but probate is very, very expensive. I see a lot of times, even beneficiaries might argue over things because it wasn't clear in the documents, or it's a really old document. Generally, what I've heard from attorneys is you should revisit your estate planning documents every 3 to 5 years. That's when changes happen in terms of more kids or marriages or divorces or business changes. At least looking over those documents every 3 to 5 years is what I have been told when I sit in meetings with attorneys. But having that estate planning document be really clear, making sure it's signed and you have an original somewhere. That's one that I recently saw. The estate planning documents, all that the beneficiaries or the sons could find was a photocopy. And that doesn't work with Washington state law. So you want to make sure that you have all of those ducks in a row, and make sure you're working with your team so that you can avoid a large part of your estate going to people like myself and attorneys to sort this stuff out in the court system. So
I have an attorney friend, and she says, it'll cost you $1,500 or $2,000 to do your estate documents, right? Guess what a messed up probate is? $40,000. So pay me now or pay me later. It's kind of the message there. But I would also say, so there's probatable assets and there's non-probatable assets, and know the difference. If you have named a beneficiary on an account, like your IRA or investment account at Edward Jones, it is a non-probatable asset. It does not go through the probate process because you have named beneficiaries. The same can be true for bank accounts if it's a TOD, transfer on death. So there's a distinction. Things like your home, your vehicles, those things are generally probatable assets, and they will have to go through the process. But what I tell clients is, if you want the state of Washington involved in your business, don't do anything. Because they will decide what happens. So do something so you get to decide where it goes. And especially, if you have charitable intent, or you have a child who has an addiction or some kind of spendthrift issues, you probably don't just want it to be handed to them, which is generally what the state will do. It goes to your next of kin or your heirs.
What do I need to know about my tax preparation for charitable giving?
We briefly touched on this, but keep your gift donation receipt for the IRS. The IRS, once you file your return, has a 3-year statute of limitations, which does not start until you file your return. So if you have not filed your return, it doesn't start. So I've had people that are 10 years behind on taxes, and now they have even longer to continue auditing those. So I would make sure that you file and then hang on for 3 years to the documents. If you make a qualified charitable donation, they need to provide you with the donation receipt. We talked about that. Keep that in your file as well. If you gift your RMD through Three Rivers Community Foundation, you receive 1 donation receipt, and then you can direct that gift into multiple organizations. So we chatted about that. Great resource, highly recommend. And then we talked about this, don't be reactive, be proactive. Make sure you're in communication with your advisors. Best case scenario all throughout the year, quarterly. I see some people meet quarterly, and I think that's really effective. But even if it's just in the fall, from my perspective, that's really useful.
We've covered this a little bit, but just to pull it all together, what should you expect from the nonprofits you support as a donor?
Absolutely, you should receive a receipt. If you don't receive a receipt, it's kind of a red flag. You should receive regular communication from them. Generally, you're going to get on their mailing list and know about what they're doing with the funds that you've donated to them. So they should be accountable to you. Abby, what's some things that you guys do at Three Rivers Community Foundation?
Certainly getting in the channel of communications. We do events specifically for donors. They get kind of first reveal of our annual report each year. And we also know a lot of nonprofits will turn to their large donors for feedback, for focus groups, if they're considering something like a capital campaign or a launch of a major project. You may be able to provide some feedback as a donor regarding those thoughts. So it kind of brings you to the inner circle. And just to note that 990s, which is the nonprofit version of a tax return, are publicly available. So it might be, we have some software that makes it very easy for us to access, but you can kind of track it down, or that it should be on a nonprofit's website as well, but that's something we can assist with as well. So what might a journey through charitable giving look like for a couple or an individual? What might be the steps that would take them through a journey?
All right. Feel free to jump in too. So usually people begin by giving cash donations, $20 here, $100 here, and that starts to grow as you make more income or you get older. Maybe you don't have childcare anymore, college costs, whatever it is, you start donating and you do more and more. And then some event or circumstance generally increases your wealth, so sale of business or land. You receive inheritance yourself from a family member. You start meeting with your CPA and your financial advisor, talk about your interests, what you want to accomplish in your lifetime, and that number starts to go up. You might consider a one-time gift. Maybe you're really moved, your church is going to build a new building, and you want to donate a large amount of money for that. And so that would kind of be like maybe later in life as you get there. And then potentially you want to gift something upon your passing, and so you have a bequest in your estate planning documents. That would be kind of what we see. But generally it starts to kind of grow over someone's lifetime is typically what I see.
One example I wanted to give is a client recently, her brother passed away fairly young, kind of unexpectedly, didn't have beneficiaries, went through the probate process. It ended up going to her mother, who was late 80s. And then her mother passed away within 6 months. So there's 2 large estates, and she was the sole beneficiary of both. Huge, somebody in the family had worked for Exxon and in the oil industry and Chevron, and so they had these large stock holdings of Exxon and Chevron that quickly became condensed in one person, right? Large untaxable gains in them. And so what she decided to do is, because it became a huge tax nightmare, I mean, her taxes just blew up in the matter of a year. She created an endowment at her university. She started gifting these highly appreciated stocks. She created a donor advised fund with the community foundation. She kind of just started unwinding this, but it was a huge process. And literally we are on calls with the attorney and the CPA probably every 6 months just to make sure we're getting it right. Because there's a window of time if you inherit a beneficial IRA and you are not the spouse. It's a 5-year window, and in this case, she was the second beneficiary, so she only had a 3-year window, and it was a sizable IRA to unwind all that tax. So you really want to get strategic when these life events happen and not just try to do it yourself or wing it, because it could really have some serious implications down the road. And so that's where that journey happens is, you start giving $20 and then pretty soon you're in your 60s and 70s, you have a family member pass, large assets are, inherited by you, and pretty soon you have $100,000 of unrealized income you're gonna have to start taking every year that you hadn't planned for. Good problem to have, kind of, but it's a major tax event for her.
I've even got some clients who are elderly and they're just trying to keep under that $2.2 million estate. So every year they look and say, okay, my stocks grew this amount, so this year I need to gift X amount just to stay under the 2.2. I don't want to have to deal with a Washington state problem. So it can be as simple as that, is just how do I stay under the 2.2 million? I don't want to give it to my kids, they do fine, they're all in their 60s. So there's definitely a lot of different options out there.
Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, Abby, what are some of the charities or the nonprofits that Three Rivers works with in our community so that maybe it's more relatable for the audience? 'Cause
Sure.
there's a lot.
Well, we did bring some copies of our annual report, which lists all of our previous year's grant making, which was 59 nonprofits serving Benton and Franklin counties that we supported to the tune of $270,000. So you're welcome to take a copy of that. But Three Rivers Community Foundation is purposely very broad in our grant making and our support of the community. So not only do we support things like Second Harvest and Tri-Cities Food Bank and domestic violence services and Safe Harbor and Boys and Girls Club, we also support the arts. We also support animal welfare, some organizations that don't fit into some other grant makers' focuses. So when we're working with donors, they get to know kind of how broad that grant making is, but also communicate what their interests are. And we play matchmaker in between what the donor wants to support and the needs that we see in the community and help do that work for you. What if I don't know how I want to give, or I have complex instructions? I know exactly what I want to give, and it's a 25-step process.
Call Abby. And then tell your financial advisor the dollar amount.
And your state attorney.
What I know about Three Rivers Community Foundation, it's a great way to do that complex gifting, but also remain anonymous if that's something that's important to you. Sometimes people don't want their name out there, and Three Rivers can help with that. So I think that's another great option. They can help with the oversight. It's really complex. I mean, I look at a 990 and I can read it, but I've been doing this for over 15 years. And so maybe just having someone to bounce ideas off of, is this where I should donate my money? Should I do 50% of it here? What kind of giving you a map? And I think that's a really great resource that everyone can use.
We also try and stay very connected and informed about what's happening in the nonprofit community. So there may be things that haven't hit the 990 yet, that just because of our networking and connections that Janet and I have, and all the coffee meetings that we have, getting to know what's going on out there. Another thing that we see is, especially if you're going to have a family member or a friend be your personal representative in your estate plan, this is the person who's going to follow those instructions and follow your wishes and unwind all the bits and pieces. Funneling the charitable portion through one entity can make things a lot simpler for them. It really would just streamline the process, and then we have your full instructions to then execute, but it could take a burden off your personal representative in that situation. On
that note, a good thing about Three Rivers Community Foundation is I'm hoping not to pass away tomorrow, right? I set up these instructions, and 40 years down the road, I pass away, and that charity doesn't exist anymore. Three Rivers has the variance policy to find a like-kind charity based on my intent. If it was for children's theater, they would find another like-kind children's theater nonprofit to donate to. So that does happen, and then it's kind of like, if there's not a Three Rivers in the middle, where do we send the money? Because the charity just simply doesn't exist anymore. And I've seen that happen with some of my clients as well.
So we just threw a lot of information at you. Are there any questions? We do have the great resource here of Tara and Bonnie to answer any questions you might have. We did create a little take-home list of some of the points that we've made today. So Charlotte and Janet are going to distribute those. Colin's always good for a question.
So when you go to a retailer and there's the roundup option for some sort of charity, is that really a charitable donation, or is that for the company's charitable donation? And if it is a charitable donation, have you ever had somebody show up with 1,000 receipts for 87 cents? Add those up.
No, I do not add those up. Please do not bring me your shoebox of receipts. Honestly, that's a really good question. To me, that would be pretty immaterial and generally not going to go over the $25,900. But I would assume that it would count for a charitable donation. But I don't know that for sure. I'd have to research.
There's probably some super fine print on that receipt somewhere. Yikes. Any other questions?
Yes. When you talk about estate planning documents, what in addition to a will would you consider in that bundle?
So generally, it's 3 pieces. It's your power of attorney. So I'm not an attorney also. I cannot give you legal advice. It's your power of attorney. That's a person who can act on your behalf medically or financially while you're alive. Once you pass, that stops. And then you have your will, and you would name a personal representative or executor in that who would handle your assets once you've passed. And then you generally have healthcare directives. I want these life-sustaining measures or not. So estate documents, when I talk about it, is kind of those 3 together, and that's the package you should receive when you are with an estate planning attorney. Great question.
Awesome, thank you. We're really happy to have the chance to throw a lot of acronyms at you today.
As advertised before, I'm back because Rob's not here. So, but he deserves a vacation. I don't think he's had one in a while. So, and once he's done as the Pasco Chamber president, then I think he's going to be the PK Rotary president. So he's definitely, he already is. So he's double duty. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate the informative panel discussion. Got me thinking, and I want to thank Red Lion for providing us a wonderful lunch today. I thought that chicken was really, really good. And John Funfar back there with PSC-TV for filming this. You can see this later online and also on the City of Pasco's public access channel. I do have the list of the donation locations, so if there's somewhere near you that would be a little bit more convenient than coming down to our office, but Spec Hyundai of Tri-Cities, Grocery Outlet on Road 68, Blue Compass RV, obviously here at the Red Lion, and then at our office as well too. And we do have, did I say Spec? I thought I did. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Spec Hyundai of Tri-Cities as well. So keep an eye out on some other, if there are some other locations on our communications and social media. And if you do make a donation as well too, please post it on your social media. That'll hopefully drive other people to do the same thing. And then we have some posse events coming up. So if you're interested in getting more information about being a posse member, it'll be rolling up here on the screen, and there's a QR code. So if you did bring an item, you got a little blue raffle ticket. That's for $200 to the lucky winner of that. And we also have our door prize, but I wanted to give you guys fair warning that we're going to be doing the drawing. So if you want to come up here, actually, let's have Bonnie pick both of the winners, if that's all right. And I do want to thank Molina Healthcare for sponsoring the luncheon and Three Rivers Community Foundation for sponsoring the gift card for the school donations. Thanks, Tara. I get how easy Rob has it now because I'm usually doing this. So, all right. Let's start with the door prize, which is a $50 gift card for Amazon, which reminds me too, this December is our nonprofit showcase. Amazon's a big sponsor for that, so it goes hand in hand a little bit to what we're discussing today. So you have a couple months to think about how to plan your year-end giving, and I know that we're working closely with Three Rivers Community Foundation too to make donating a little bit easier as well too, with QR codes and doing easier methods and cutting checks or doing cash. So with that, Barb Kelch, you win the door prize today, and I have that up here, so I'll give that to you afterwards, Barb. And then for the school supply drive, I have a blue ticket. The number is 1048. I know, everybody is at the golf tournament hates it when I do this, so I gotta do it because it's been a couple months. All right. 104893. See, wasn't that fun? It was fun for me. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Keep an eye out for September 11th, the annual business luncheon. You don't want to miss it. Even if you're not a racing fan, you're going to get a lot of information and good stuff for your company. So enjoy the heat, stay cool, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.